Hey, I'm glad you're joining me for this week's encouragement. Several years ago, I was eating out with my elderly mom. She was a little bit in dementia, and we were eating when a young lady walked by, and her shirt was a little bit too small. Actually, I think she was too big for the shirt. Anyway, it caused my mom to look at her, and then she looked at me, and with these words said out loud, "That shirt makes her look fat." Well, at that moment, I wanted to crawl under the table or hope that a trap door would open under my chair or just somehow I could magically disappear and get out of that moment. Now, listen, I love my mom, but there's like, that's too much. But it just reminded me of how our inner world always shows up outwardly. Several times my wife and I have talked about how we're glad there are no marquees over our forehead giving away our thoughts when we've been talking with someone. Because I've been in situations, and I bet you have too, when someone has said something and you thought, that's crazy, right? But aren't you glad it didn't show up? And I've been in other situations in larger groups, and I'm glad my thoughts aren't being revealed right now. And so it's a good thing we can keep our thoughts to ourselves. However, the reality is that somewhere in the future, that our thoughts, our inner life, it's going to show up in our outer world. It may be a situation where, with a person that you either have feelings of bitterness toward, or you may have great love for them, and they walk into the room, and you may be keeping those feelings or thoughts secretly, but they walk into the room and it's going to show up. It's going to show up either in you going toward them and embracing them, or maybe you're ignoring them and avoiding them. Maybe it has to do with your secret, either love or a disdain for your job, that you either are all go-getter and you're showing up early and working late, or you're quietly quitting. Maybe it has to do with habits that you're practicing. Maybe no one else knows about them. And those habits are leading either to a healthy life or to a life of scarcity and fear. But either way, your inner life is showing up somewhere. And this goes back to a simple agricultural principle of their fruit. And the reason you have those fruit is because of the roots. And if the roots are healthy and strong, you're having the healthy fruit that you're wanting. And so we have to dig in and figure out what's going on with our inner life if our outer world is not where we want it to be. One of the truths I love about Jesus is how his teaching was so profound and yet simple. It was amazing to me, and how applicable what he said always showed up. And one of the things he talked about was how our inner world, our inner life, shows up in our outer world. He said that the words we speak come from our heart. And what he was saying is that the words we're using, that I'm using now, that you use in conversations with people, it's always a revelation of what's going on inside of us, that our inner life always impacts our outer world. And many times it creates our outer world because our words are so powerful and they come from thoughts and in our hearts that are inside of us. Unfortunately, we don't always know what we're thinking, right? You've been in those situations. Perhaps you showed up at work upset and you had terrible conversations with coworkers. Like, what is going on? Well, what you were not aware of maybe is that you brought that argument with your spouse to your job and you were totally oblivious to that. There may be other situations that you might have, like a meeting with a boss the next day, but the day before you're anxious, you're uncertain, you're trying to figure out what he wants to meet with you about and what's going on. And so all that day before, you have all that going on, but you're not aware of it, but it shows up in your conversations with your kids or your spouse. When I first was married, I was a pastor. And so on Saturday nights, my wife noticed how quiet and withdrawn that I could become, even sullen to a point. And so she thought, I wonder if I said something that's causing him to be so quiet and not engaged. I wonder if I've done something to offend him. And so she was kind of wondering what she had done wrong. And so she asked me, she said, "Are you okay? Have I done anything?" I said, "Oh, no, why? Why do you, I'm fine." She said, "Well, you're so quiet and withdrawn." And the more we talked about it, the more we realized that Saturday nights are always the day before Sunday, which are big days for pastors, right? You got sermon to preach and people to talk with. And just as a young pastor, I didn't know really what that was going to look like. And so I was trying to figure that out. And I was in my inner life was showing up in my outer world, though I wasn't aware of it. And so there are times we don't even know what's going on inside of us, but it's showing up outside. So my encouragement for you and for all of us really today is to look around at our outer world and say, you know, what's not working in my outer world? And then do a little spade work and dig in and begin to ask yourself, hey, what's going on in my inner life that I need to look at or deal with? And maybe something you're not aware of. Maybe ask a friend or a counselor and get some help to kind of dig in to see what's going on inside, because your inner life always shows up in your outer world. Now, it may not solve your problem, right? It may not just go away. Oh, I got to figure it out. But what will happen is you will learn to discern what's going on inside and learn to begin to control that. And listen, that's the bigger challenge than what's going on outside of you. It's what's going on inside that really needs your attention. I'm glad that we are growing into the person that God created us to be. So let's keep growing and moving in that direction. Thanks for watching. Let's share this with others and let's help each other get there.